You may have seen in my rewriting Heroes of Olympus specifically for Son of Neptune that I had a problem with Percy's characterization, in the sense that they kind of undo a lot of his arc in the original series. And for me, that's why I just really don't like Percy as much as I did in Heroes of Olympus. For me, Percy in Heroes is kind of ruined a little bit. He's a lot more, not necessarily selfish, but all the things that were his problems in the original series of making the quests about him, having to be involved with things. I know saying main character energy has a very different connotation, but his whole thing was that he had to learn that he was not the main character, even though he is the main character. He had to take a step back. He had to believe in others. Luke was the hero of the prophecy, not him. And originally when, like Rachel says, you aren't the hero of the prophecy, Percy's kind of hurt by it. Like, what do you mean I'm not the hero? But that was his whole thing. He had to learn to step back. He had to learn to let other people be the ones in control. I thought he would have learned all that when it came to Son of Neptune, when we are reintroduced to him as someone who's lost all of his memories, is in a new place, and is having to, go on a quest again and be a hero. I thought we would have seen a difference in him and have him step back, be more of a mentor position. Even if he is still only 17, him being a mentor would still make sense. He kind of was meant to be being that for Nico in the original series, even though that kind of went downhill very quick. But when Frank and Hazel are part of his group, and Frank is even named as the leader of the quest, he is kind of not. Percy still ends up being the one making the decisions. He still ends up being the one who is the lead of the quest. He still ends up being the one who becomes leader of New Rome alongside Raina, when he wasn't even meant to be the leader of the quest. Why wasn't Frank? Because Frank didn't get the chance to be the leader. Percy's whole thing is that he was meant to have become someone who boosts up other people, who steps back when he needs to. He can see, he even gives a whole speech to Frank near the end of Son of Neptune when they are heading up to Alaska. But when they're heading up there, he gives this huge speech to Frank about how he is a good leader and how he's done all these things. But he kind of hasn't. Editing Fran here, I just want to add an additional bit here of Percy's whole speech about Frank being a big leader, and just basically kind of how ironic it is, because even in the scene when Frank is given the leadership role, Frank barely talks. I believe not only is it from Percy's POV, but Percy actually is the one who mostly speaks during the scene when Frank is made a leader. Once again, taking away Frank's role as a possible leader and the ability for Percy to have actually been a mentor to him. And it's just kind of disappointing, as well as the rest of what happens in Son of Neptune, because again, Percy ends up being the main character, taking away a lot of things from the other characters who are brand new and probably could have done with it. All of what was happening in Son of Neptune was in response to Percy. The giant that they are going to have to face at New Rome is going there because Percy is there. The giant that they have to defeat in Alaska, yes, Frank does defeat him, but Percy has honestly the more badass fight moment in that he defeats an entire legion of dead Romans. Single-handedly, Percy has the most badass moments. His moment with the Gorgon and Phineas, amazing. It's also reiterated multiple times within Son of Neptune that Percy is Gaia's favourite. He is the one she wants to kill to rise with. But why not Frank and Hazel? She needs a boy and a girl. She quite literally has a boy and a girl right there. Why is her focus on Percy? Because it's Percy. Which kind of goes against, again, the whole point of the original series, that Percy was meant to learn that he didn't have to be the main guy. He didn't have to be the central hero of the story. But in Son of Neptune, he still is. And then, even later on, Heroes of Olympus kind of makes Percy kind of dumb. And it's specifically in the moment of the battle during Blood of Olympus against New Rome at Camp Half-Blood, where Percy's rallying cry to Camp Half-Blood is, fight stuff. As if this wasn't the boy who, at 16, led an entire army at New York's Manhattan, in Manhattan, by the Empire State Building, where he gave directions and they followed his lead. Him saying fight stuff is an insult to his character. That, honestly, kind of a lot of Heroes of Olympus felt like an insult to his character. We have a lot of really good moments of him being protective and him being caring and him caring about his friends, even though honestly the 7 are really not friends, and I do need to do a proper video about this at some point. But it's just frustrating. There's just so many moments where Percy becomes central, and when he really shouldn't have been. That whole scene of him and Jason figuring out and kind of fighting internally over who's going to sit in the head chair, and even just their whole conflict in general about who's going to be the leader. Stupid. Annabeth is obviously going to be the leader. Why didn't Percy say, oh no, it should have been Annabeth, instead of trying to sit there himself? That was the whole point of his arc, was that he didn't need to be the main guy. Heroes of Olympus is just a really frustrating series for me when it comes to Percy, because Percy just feels like someone who's not learnt anything and has just reverted back to the way he was before. And it's disappointing. And it's kind of why I don't really like Heroes of Olympus that much. What do you guys think? Do you feel like Percy's arc was kind of undone a little bit in Heroes of Olympus? Or do you think I'm just kind of chatting rubbish and just want to speak hate? Because a lot of people seem to think I just hate this series. I don't. I enjoy Percy. I like this series. He was just kind of done a bit dirty in Heroes of Olympus for me. But whatever the case, let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, share with your friends, check out my Patreon, read my books. And yeah, thank you again, and I'll see you all next time.